Hey, now we're going to talk about the budget.
The budget, yes. So there are obvious winners and losers, but what did you think of it? An overall comment?
Oh, look, as a state budget, the Treasurer did the best he could. The one standout takeaway message that I got from it, which I think the Advertiser summed up pretty much on their front page this morning, $44 billion in debt.
Yeah.
And to me, that is a cost and a debt and an interest payment that is going to go long beyond this Treasurer's time in politics. And it's very easy as a Treasurer to make big promises and big spending, and largely to get you and your government re-elected, and there's no crime in that. And we are getting big infrastructure projects, the North-South Corridor and the new Women's and Children's Hospital. But this $44 billion, when it got to 21 and then to 38, I thought, gee, we're getting out of our league here.
What is it normally? What sort of budget deficit do they run?
Well, let's say around the 20 to 30 billion, should I say? If it was million, we'd be lucky, but no, it's the $1 billion mark. But it's the interest payment, which is about $5 million a day, I think, that we're paying on that. And it's more, okay, we're getting assets, so to speak, being the North-South Corridor and the Women's and Children's Hospital. So that's fine, but it's not an asset. It becomes a liability because you can't sell it and you can't stop working on it once you've started. So this debt is locked in. There is no way we are not going to have this. And where does it go from there? Does it go beyond that?
They're going to add to it next year?
Well, one presumes that these costs don't come down; they only go up.
Yeah.
But in terms of recurrent spending, Stephen Mulligan's done the best he can for the battlers out there, the low income earners, and giving them some relief. But health is always going to be the big problem here, and we talk about ambulance ramping, we talk about putting new beds in hospitals, but do we have the staff and do we have the capacity to train enough people to become medical experts and medical practitioners that are going to service these beds? It's like saying, all right, let's buy 1,000 new ambulances. Will that get rid of the ramping problem? No, of course it won't, because it's the bed block at the other end of the system.
But why didn't they know that when they were building this Butte Whiz Schmick hospital, this new hospital? Wouldn't they have, through just the experience of running the health department, they would have the knowledge of what was required to be an adequate system? So you'd engineer this new hospital to cope with almost anything,
but
surely.
I think the fly in the ointment here was when COVID hit, and to me, there probably was a ramping problem and a highly publicised one before that, but it doesn't stick out in my mind. Ramping seemed to roughly coincide with COVID starting, and we saw a lot more aged people coming down and needing hospital treatment, and then there are not enough nursing home beds to get them out of the hospitals to free up the beds to free the bed block. I think, well, we're in a code yellow at the moment where all non-elective surgery has been cancelled, or most of it has been cancelled for a week. We've gone over a week of that now. It's a code yellow, yet we're being told that since the Labor government's come into power, there's a record amount of spending, which there is, and it's a huge chunk of the budget. So we create a record amount of spending to be spent on health, yet we're still in a code yellow. So what does that tell you? It tells you we're pouring money into a bottomless pit. That's what it tells you, because the problem is the spending's up and the problem's worse. So so much for the
throwing money at a problem.
Well, throwing money and the promises, the election promises that Peter Malinowski said he was going to fix the ramping crisis. Your life depends on it.
Okay, well, why don't they build this new Women's and Children's Hospital and take the old Women's and Children's Hospital and have that as a backup health facility for overflow?
And that seriously has been suggested, but I think part of the cost benefit of a new Women's and Children's Hospital is you flog the old site off.
Oh, they're going to build apartments there, I've got no doubt.
Actually make some money from it. I'm not sure separating with the same basic essential services, because everyone will say, I want to go to the new one, not the old one, and even if it's an overflow, I think your capacity to maintain both is just not worth the effort. If you build the new one sufficiently big enough and well-resourced enough, you don't need the old one. And what used to make my blood boil is, and I probably did half a dozen television stories on it, where we would be called to the Old Women's and Children's Hospital, and they say, right, we're embarking on a $10 million upgrade of whatever, and next 6 months later, a $15 million upgrade of the paediatric whatever clinic. And you think, why are we upgrading and spending a lot of money doing it, and we know it's going to be ripped down within the next 5 to 10 years? Now, to me, that was money down the drain, and the health ministers at the time and the Premier said, well, we have to. You can't not maintain the facility we've got, and the new one won't be ready. So it's like where you patch up your house, put paper over the cracks, but the cracks are going to come back.
You drive around the city, let alone the suburbs, and there are so many hospitals. We've got the St Andrews, and we've got what's that big one, the new one that they've built in town?
Calvary,
yeah. No, Calvary. They managed to build. What are you showing me? The money we raised from Variety for the Women's and Children's Hospital, millions and millions of dollars. And of course, Channel 7 and the big promotion that you always had every year for the Women's and Children's Hospital. The Good Friday Appeal. Now, all of that money went into building and improving and providing more facilities for the hospital.
Yeah, but that did, over the decades, that did serve a purpose at the time, and I don't begrudge.
But too good to just throw away.
Yeah, but all hospitals are going to eventually need to be updated and brought into the modern era, and we're talking maybe 20 years ago.
But why doesn't that work when you look at the Great Ormond Street Hospital, which was built in London in 1750? I'm sure it's been updated, but St Mary's is an old hospital.
Well, but I've always thought that, and I've changed my mind a bit on the old Royal Adelaide Hospital opposed to the new one, but where you're spending in the billions of dollars, if you spend half that amount and upgraded what you already had, you could bring it up to speed pretty quickly, but there is a political will to not do that on occasions, and I think Lot 14 in town, the site of the old Royal Adelaide Hospital, is a handy acquisition and a useful one for the state as well.
Yep. What did our Treasurer do before politics? Was he, I'm looking down...
He was a media advisor for the then, from memory, the Transport Minister, I think. So Stephen Mulligan
has been a staffer.
Yes, and he has been around for a long time. And his father. What would
he know about? His father was a judge, wasn't he? Yes.
The late Ted Mulligan.
Yeah. Well, what would he know in terms of life experience? What would he know about budgets and balancing books and spending wisely and stuff like that?
I'm not certain treasurers, whether they be state or federal, need to be the greatest economists of all time, because they have an under-treasurer.
And they've got a big department.
And various staff who are experts in that area. They have to be the mouthpiece who goes out and sells it. Sometimes they have a pretty firm hand on what can happen and what can't happen. Their main task is wrangling other cabinet ministers in who all come in with their hand out saying, my department needs more money because we are falling behind. And they say, no, well, you can have it or you can't have it.
Or surely you'd say, well, very nice wish list you've got there, but unfortunately we'll have to bypass that this year because we just don't have the money.
Oh, and often they say, not only we don't have the money, you need to cut your spending. You find out how. You've got to have a 10% efficiency dividend by this time next year. Yeah. And how do you cut spending in a department?
Imagine that, a public service department with an efficiency expectation or value for money expectation. $44 billion in terms of state debt. That would be, of course, on top of all of the money we individually are responsible for with the federal debt. hard to get your mind around that. But you remember the Khemlani affair?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jerry
Karidas, and came up with this guy, Pakistani, I think, financier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jerry did a deal with him in some shady place. I'm not saying Jerry's shady at all.
No.
He's just coming up to his 87th birthday.
I know, he's a marvellous man, Jerry Karidas. He's built, you look around town and see the things he's built over the years. But the idea was to pay off the national debt. And as I remember it, the national debt, going back to 1975, was $4 billion. So we were going to finance one debt over here with another debt over here. But, it all sounded very shady. But the reason I bring it up is that was all the entire country owed, $4 billion.
It's a long time ago.
A long time ago, yeah. But people forget.
They do, but I think Jerry saw that as one of his great achievements, certainly one of his great talking points, that he in the Whitlam government and what they were going to do. And Jerry's come a long way since then.
Yes. Ain't that the truth? Well, with the winners and the losers with this budget thing.
So the winners, definitely those who are struggling, that they get a cost of living, I guess, a rebate on their energy bills in the couple of $250, I think it is, and no one has to do anything if you qualify for it.
Concession holders, a one-off payment of $243.90.
Yeah, and that just gets
come up with that figure, I wonder.
Well, it sounded good. It's not quite 250, and it's a bit over 240.
Yeah, I guess.
So those are the winners. Look, who are the losers? I think mental health didn't do too well out of this budget, and they are complaining quite loudly about it. But there are no new taxes, which is
but positive. you can only do what you can do. And if this is the amount of money we've got, that should be by law the amount that you can spend. No more. Not a penny more, not a penny less.
Exactly.
Would be sensible, wouldn't it? Anyway, look forward to seeing you on the weekend.
Yes, I'll be on
television
Saturday night and Sunday night, and I'll be on Monday. And thank you for having me, Jeremy.
And thank you for running.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for running our little anniversary thing with the
flashback.
Flashback.
It was great, wasn't it?